We're yeah. It's up to 5:04 p.m. now, so there anyway. So why don't we go ahead and come to order? And we obviously we don't have Becca and we don't have Judith tonight, so I will call the roll. Uh, Ralph Roughton here. Kinsey Watts,
Here.
Ren Almitra,
Here.
Mark Lee, you're
Here.
here. Marcus Medina.
I'm here.
Oh, good. Neil Minch is absent. Peter Summers.
Here.
Okay. I'm sorry, what? That means one alternate. I think it's uh, for tonight. Well, we were going to designate Jason Wells as the first voting alternate, who will be replacing Neil, and that would make. I don't. Gerald Mitchell's not on, is he? Oh, I didn't. I didn't do alternates. Sorry, Lisette Casey,
Here.
Jason Wells,
Here.
Gerald Mitchell.
I do not see him.
Okay, okay. So, Lisette, you'll be the second alternate for recusals, but obviously no problem with discussion or anything else that's going on. So, but we need to make that be a motion. So if somebody will make a motion to that effect that Jason is the first voting alternate, replacing or subbing for Neil Minch and Lisette Casey for any recusals. Is there a motion?
I'll move that Jason be alternate for Neil and Lisette for any recusals.
Thanks, Kinsey. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. So that vote would have been 6-0, actually. Okay. Um, On to the agenda, which you got, and I don't have any revisions to the agenda other than the fact that we're not going to have reports, but we'll leave them on the agenda just in case somebody pops in at the last minute. But a motion to approve the agenda, please.
I move that we approve the agenda as it stands.
Thanks. Second,
I'll second that motion.
Marcus, I think was on there first. Okay, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, thanks. Minutes, once again, Danielle comes through. We've got minutes from the February 12th meeting. Any corrections or revisions? I have just one it's more housekeeping. There are several references to Charles Rocky and the Rocky Museum. It should be Rockey instead of Y. Any any others? If not, motion to approve with housekeeping.
So move, Jason.
Thanks. Second.
I'll second.
Thanks. All in favor? Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, and that became 7-0. Public comment not on the agenda. Does anybody have anything? Okay, that's fine. Reports. Becca is pretty swamped this week and was unable to join us. So we don't have her report, but I can tell you that there's no change in numbers. That we're still looking for the same bottom line. And then City Council, Judith Chandler, the city scheduled a public meeting for, I think it's starting at 5:30 about Hiawatha Gardens, and she was compelled to go to that. So uh, I will be making some references to her because she was involved with me on uh, this little ad hoc group that project that we've been working on the last few days. So no reports, and that takes us straight into business quickly, which is a good thing because we need the time.
Hey, Ralph.
Yes.
Jason here. I can report that I did attend the Carnival Festival in a peripheral manner and had a great time.
How was the crowd? The
I was
photo.
also there, and Jason was the great king of the parade.
Yes. How was
Great job.
the photos looked wonderful. I was just photos and videos.
It was
Thanks,
an
Mark.
excellent event.
I think
Excellent event.
Mark posted something
Yeah,
like 82 photos.
I know Mark attended well. I can't speak to the crowd because I'm not used to seeing it from that perspective. So it was something else.
It looked pretty typical, but very good. Glad to glad to hear it. Sorry I couldn't be there, but anyway, let's move straight into business. And the first thing on here is the status report on upstairs at the Stack, the St. Andrews Community Center. And I have some notes because I really want to be specific here, and this is going to take a few minutes, but I feel like it's worth sharing as much as I can. And then if needed, if everybody wants, I'm happy to forward some information to the group after the meeting. From the start, as we all know, there have been some concerns about the project that was called Upstairs at the Stack, or the application, starting with the fact that it was for $20,000 and our biggest request. Looking at the details, we saw that the 20,000 was just for rent, not programs, and only for half of the first year's rent of $40,000. We asked Nancy Fortune and Susan Watkins to join us for a meeting, and they answered our questions as best they could. That was really helpful that they were here. But I felt strongly that we needed more information if possible, including perhaps some advance indication from council of what to expect, because our role is not to make a recommendation that's rubber stamped. We make a recommendation to council and council acts on it. We don't usually, I mean, they don't want to be in on our deliberations, and we don't want to have, too many people in the conversation when we're trying to make these decisions. But this seemed like a time when it would be good to do at least some checking, because the last thing we need is wasted work and effort. In other words, let's say we approve the grant as a partial for $10,000 and make all other cuts accordingly. Then we go to council on March 10th and they tell us no way. Suddenly we got to come back and figure out how to spend 10,000 more with a short time leash. So that's why last week I decided to appoint myself, and it wound up being myself and Judith Chandler, to find out as much as we could and come back to you tonight. I sent a list of questions to Nancy Fortune, and Judith began checking the pulse of some of the other council members, not like a meeting or anything, but just one-on-ones. Not necessarily trying to get votes, but just trying to see what their questions were and their thoughts. And even though she couldn't be here, she and I have had several lengthy discussions about this, and her help has been really appreciated. There are questions. There's still questions. There are questions about the lease because there is no lease yet. There's questions about whether the rent would be paying for renovations. And what if we only gave them partial funding? Would they be able to really make it happen? I'm going to read a few excerpts from the responses. I'm not going to go too deep, but I say, when do you expect to have a lease agreement? Any chance of the church agreeing to a multi-year lease? Nancy said, we're currently finalizing a memorandum of understanding, an MOU with St. Michael's Church, which owns St. Andrews. Once the MOU is signed, we anticipate committing to a lease agreement within the next month, assuming we have assurance of adequate funds to make that commitment. Without match funds, that commitment may not be possible. Uh, the St. Michael's Church that owns St. Andrews is extremely supportive of this concept, would likely be amenable to a multi-year lease, likely, once our funding is solidified. Question, can you confirm whether funds from the rent would go into renovations, specifically bathrooms and ramp, to make it ADA compliant, which it is not? St. Michael's has confirmed that it will be investing all the rent revenue back into the St. Andrews building. There's some more detail that it is not essential for this conversation, but again, I'm not trying to keep a secret. I'm happy to share it if needed. Uh, I asked for a business plan. They submitted a business plan, which was pretty good in terms of, they're well organized and have thought through quite a few things that have to be achieved in order to make this work. Here's the next question. If the match board recommends and council approves an initial grant in the range of 10,000 to 12,000, would the applicants be able to commit to moving forward? Here's the answer. Yes, we could move forward, but much more tentatively. We currently have $4,000, and with 12,000 in match funding, we would be able to open the community center in April. However, we could only operate it through the second quarter of 2026. Once again, use fees, which we intend to keep at an affordable rate, will supplement our budget and perhaps keep us operational through the third quarter. And there's a few more details. We plan to join St. Michael's Church in hosting a large community fundraiser in April. No detail or specifics on that. Based on significant community interest already expressed in this community center, we have every confidence that this first year will be the most difficult financially, and that community-based financial support, along with grants from other local and regional sources, will sustain us in future years. Although they did indicate when they were with us 2 weeks ago that they would probably, the rent would rise. They were thinking perhaps to $52,000 a year instead of 40, beyond the first year. Then the last question I asked them was, if the answer is no and they can't, that 10 to 12,000 would not be enough, what would be the minimum match grant to ensure that upstairs at the stack becomes a reality? And the answer to that, I won't read it all because of time, but I'll read some of it. While acknowledging that granting 20,000 in match funds would be a first, the space offered by St. Michael's for a community center is a unique and significant opportunity that must not be passed by. And it goes on to say, receiving 20,000 in match funds would ensure that the Manitou Springs they're now going to call it Manitou Springs Commons, not the stack, uh, could financially survive its first year and serve as a vital hub in the heart of the Manitou Springs community for many years to come. Uh, that information was what I got. I can also tell you that council members have real problems with this. First, they're asking us to give them $20,000 without a signed lease, without a certain certainty of when that lease would be done, with so far only talking about a 1 year lease and not multi-year. And MOU, which has no legal power, not even being finished just yet. It's kind of hard to make a decision then. All this for a building that's not yet ADA compliant. Second, we're essentially paying for renovations of a property not owned by the city, not publicly owned. The lease could end in a year and the church still benefits. Third, even with $20,000, if we funded them fully, they don't have full funding yet for a year of rent. I can tell you that I was planning to start the conversation of how to maybe come to grips with this by suggesting 10,000, and then after working on other grants and trying to see how things might shake out, I got it up to 12,000 as a possibility. And I also thought about the option of saying the truth, which is that actually what we have here is an incomplete application, lacking in detail and specifics. So perhaps we could offer to set aside 10,000 or whatever, give the applicants some conditions to satisfy with a deadline, and say we might come back later with a recommendation, but not anything now. But what I'm hearing is that council would not, in all likelihood, approve even that, mainly because of essentially paying to renovate somebody else's building with no guarantees. We've worked well with council over the last 5 years. We've never had a single instance where our recommendation has been outright rejected. But I think I can tell you with a lot of confidence that if we make a recommendation of funding for this request, that it's going to hit a brick wall and it's not going to be accepted. And it's so tough because actually what they're trying to do and what they are being basically and wanting funds for having a brick and mortar facility that fits the tier 1 side of MACH more than the tier 2 side. But we're not able to change the wording of the ballot issue to add or change the recipients of the tier 1 funding. So that puts us in the spot that we are of having this application come to us. So I'm to the point now of saying that, it's I think we really have to think long and hard, or quickly and hard, but on how to address this. And I'm would open it at this point to anybody's questions or opinions, your feedback based on what I've just said.
Hey, Ralph,
Uh,
it's Jason here. Oh, is that Marcus?
Go
Sure.
ahead.
I'm wondering if I might throw something out there initially because it could maybe serve as a foundation for a broader conversation we're about to have on this. And this is maybe just a question to add to the questions you've already had. I know we've only got so much time to work with it, but do we know whether the possibility of an option has been discussed and whether the church or city council might be amenable to us funding an option agreement for a year so they can get their feet over themselves and do a fundraiser and all the things that need to happen. And if those option funds could go into the physical improvements, would that be something that would potentially float for us to underwrite a 1-year option? So, because it is a unique opportunity and I'd hate to see it lost, and I can't think of a better use for that space than what's being contemplated here. But yeah, the dough is not baked yet for sure on this. So it would seem nice to me as a community member to have the comfort of knowing that that option had been at least obtained for a year so they can get their ducks in a row for the next year and come back for the next cycle for the long-term commitment.
I don't know that that's been discussed at all. I'm not aware of any discussion that they've had. It's all been about renting. And I, I, we're into the point now of being in a time crunch of needing to get these recommendations to council by March 10th. So that's a fascinating idea that I wish had come up sooner. I find myself saying that a lot about this application. And I'm not upset with the applicants. I mean, I can understand they didn't have a lot of options. You know, they're sitting there looking at this match money thinking, well, that might be our saving grace.
I think I'm wondering if it still could be, but just in a different form than full-scale commitment. But at least it would be funds spent on preserving the opportunity.
So you're talking about funding a certain amount and offering it to the church, to St. Michael's Church as an option?
Well, I guess it would be offered technically to the organizers, but for that purpose, I guess it would, it would be earmarked for that purpose. Seems like it would be a easier sell to council. But it at least, at least gives the whole concept kind of puts it in a safety zone for a year and allows the time to generate funds, and it shows some good faith from the city to commit to it on some level without going whole hog.
I can tell you though that the initial asking price, that I was hearing, that when they put it on the market earlier, was 9 million.
Everyone, anyone can ask.
That's so many years of match funds.
Just thinking about what's happening with real estate in this state right now, I feel like they would be amenable to accepting in 1 year. It's just 1 year for the higher good of the community. When it might just be sitting vacant for that year. Look how many vacant properties we've had that have been vacant, commercial properties in this town that have been vacant for well over a year, many, many years. And if they're committing to putting the rental funds back into physical improvements anyway, then at least that's something to get that ball rolling. It's some financing toward that at the get-go, and it's a way to stick a pin in the whole concept for a year for it to get to some momentum. I don't think it's money just thrown out the door. I think dollars spent on preserving an opportunity for something like this are not wasted dollars.
Um, I, first of all, I'm concerned that St. Michael's that there would want more money to secure an option than what we're prepared to offer them. Uh, because that ties them up. That's one concern I have. Another concern that I have is that they're only talking about the upstairs. There's the downstairs that is the pantry that is not part of this re proposal, and it's not part of anything that I know of that they're. Mark, you could help me on that perhaps. Isn't it just
It is
upstairs?
just the upstairs. Yes, they're gonna continue to run the pantry out of the downstairs.
Uh,
Can I had a question
sure.
regarding city council. So I understand, Ralph, where you're coming from with sort of, I guess, what you might call like a straw poll or taking the temperature of council. I want to ask, like, how confident are you that that is really the read of council writ large versus maybe one or two people's opinions? Because I don't, I mean, we've all been in a lot of city council meetings and understand that, like, it's rare that they speak with one voice. And so somebody is telling you this is what council thinks. It may or may not be what council thinks. It may be what one or two people on council think.
Well,
So how confident are you to read on all 7 people versus maybe just 1 or 2?
well, it becomes 6 people because Natalie Johnson has said because of her role with the MAC that she will recuse from anything related to match. So that leaves only 6 votes. So now you're only talking about 3. 3 to 3
Sure.
is defeat, you know.
Sure.
Uh,
Sure. I understand.
I know what you're saying, and I know that somebody can get up and make an impassioned speech,
Yeah.
uh, and but it's just it. I don't know. I'm just I think that the point of that you know the money that we would be giving them would go straight into new bathrooms and renovations at a building that is owned by another entity, and that there's no guarantee, no lease, no guarantee of anything, and that money could be wasted when it could have gone to grants for projects and events and things like that.
Can,
Yeah.
can I throw out a countervailing sort of public policy position on that, just from maybe the council perspective? Is that I've long heard that this community is lacking a true community center. And in a way, this could be seen as defraying some potential long-term maintenance and upkeep costs for the city to have a facility that's fulfilling that purpose without putting more demands on more infrastructure for the city budget to shoulder. So I guess, and again, I'm not kind of playing one angle or another. I'm just trying to sort of flesh out the different angles on this. But if I were sitting on the dais when this came forward, I think as an elected official, I'd probably try to offer that perspective, not as a hardened opinion on the whole thing, but I think it is a reality that if Manitou Springs were able to obtain a community center without it landing on the long-term municipal budget, there's something to be said about that being advantageous to the city's bottom line and having that facility without having to worry about it.
And I would love to just jump in to say that even if rent payments are used by the building owners to, upgrade the bathrooms and whatnot, do renovations, it doesn't negate the fact that we would still have had that year of events and things happening in that space. Like we would still be getting what the rent would want out of the space, even if the rent money is then used for structural things. It doesn't seem like a total loss.
I know what you're saying there, uh, but I'm I'm a I'm afraid that it sounds like that point is is the start of where some of council's angst is coming from. Um, and again, we can possibly. I I I think realistically, given where things are and how long it would take. First of all, even though Jason's idea is really uh, potentially brilliant, we don't know how Nancy Fortune and Susan Watkins and their group will even respond to that, whether they would have any interest in doing that. Uh, I don't know. I mean, Mark, you're part of that group. If you want to weigh in, you could. But it seems to me that the best thing we could do right now would be more along the lines of setting money aside and not making a recommendation, and then uh, going to council and seeing if what they would be willing to accept, and just say, we're not in a position, we're not the power brokers here. We're just trying to recommend how to spend the money. Uh, and see what council might accept. But the danger of that is if we do that and then they say, no, it's not, there's too much to have to get done here, and they reject it, then we come back and we've got $10,000 to $20,000 that we've got to decide at the last minute how to appropriate.
I
Well,
think
that's not
it,
necessarily true, though, Ralph. I mean, it could just sit in a dedicated fund balance, right? I mean,
that's exactly
it's
what I
not
was about
necessarily
to say.
dedicated to this project. It would just roll over. I mean, I guess I'm kind of curious
It
to see
could, it
how
could,
everything pans out.
but I know the appetite in the past has been to uh, spend as much of the money as possible in that year.
Question off of that, or
Yes,
thought off of that. The match board itself, Becca was alluding to that we have extra flex funds and that kind of stuff that we're slowly working in year to year kind of thing. Is that not something that we could pull directly from should and when the lease gets signed? Can we just say that a beyond the budgeted amount and the like kind of from our back pocket, here's this?
uh, first of all, I don't know how much there is.
Of course.
And I know that part of her intent was assuming that next year is going to be a drop off. And I think she was hoping that that would soften the blow for next year. But again, I don't even know if that's a substantial amount of money at this point or not. I haven't seen those dollars. I don't know. We could find out, but not tonight.
Just because
Um, Go ahead, Peter.
I keep going back to the fact that it's that our name has a C in it. That like I believe that's part of like culture kind of thing. And that this opportunity comes but once potentially. And that I think this is a worthy investment, just trying to figure out logistically and financially how and where we can pull that from.
Yeah.
Uh, somebody who was
Uh, Ren, but Kinsey, did you have something? I see you're unmuted.
I did, but I'd be happy to have my turn after you.
Are you sure? Okay. Um, let's see. I know we don't want to spend probably a lot more time on this, Ralph. I did just kind of a couple thoughts. I think I just want to name like one, I think this is bringing up a really important conversation about funding operation costs that we really haven't talked about. I know that that's not a restriction, obviously, but we haven't really talked about what we do when folks are asking for rent and what that's going towards. So I think we're looking at this a lot deeper than we have before because we really haven't had these come up. So just think we should ping that for a later conversation. If this is going to keep coming up, it's like if we're actually parsing down what they're spending that rent money on, I think it's going to be a lot more complicated to think about operation costs in the future. I think I personally don't think we would have much trouble allocating 8 to 10,000 last minute. I think we're going to have a lot of applications tonight and then next week, assuming we meet, that like are going to be partials or we really wanted to fund, but we can't. So like I personally think that would go really quick. I don't want to speak for the whole board. Um, I also am just curious about, projects that we're funding for 1 year that have higher dollar values that we don't poke out quite as much, that really do just have a 1 year value. And then last, I'm not super comfortable, and it's already been done with like vetting the city council ahead of time. I think we have a process for all of our applications. I understand why this one was vetted a little further, but I just wanted to name like I don't know. I think it's part of our process to do what we're doing, submit it, and yeah, maybe we have the first occasion of getting pinged back and then we figure it out. So those are just a couple of thoughts. I guess the last is I agree with what everyone else is saying, including what Peter just said, that I don't and Ralph, I don't think you quite meant it this way, but I don't think they submitted this as well, here's an opportunity. We need 20,000. Here's a place where we could, like, I really think it aligns quite well. And I think they made that pitch very, very well when they talked with us. So I understand why they made the strong pitch that they did, not just for the money, but that it is a fit for the community.
Sweet.
okay.
Thank you, Ren. I was just gonna throw in that I will echo that it does feel interesting to feel like we could have a unanimous vote to say we want to vote for this, but to maybe wonder if we already know that city council would push back. And I might be a little stubborn, but that almost makes me want to do it more. But I was going to say, apart from that, it just feels like we've got a lot of board support for this. It would have been one that I was expecting to push for, just suggesting full funding and we make it work because I think it's a really cool opportunity. Um, and I would love to see that space used and that opportunity snatched when we have the option. Um, and so I would just be curious if other people feel the same way. If there was already sort of sweeping board support behind it, I mean, it kind of sounds like there's a lot of support. It's worth mentioning.
I'll go ahead and chime in,
Sure.
like, since I have it. And I think the community, like Jason said, does have a need for a community center, and we've been waiting for Hiawatha for a long time, and it seems that that's going to be a long time waiting still. So City Hall can only fit so many people. This place fits it. Now the bathroom thing does come in, but if some of these funds go towards the bathroom, and maybe we don't want to say that, that will at least get the event center going quicker, and then they can get the events going because there's a bathroom there now. But maybe not that. And I agree with Ren and Kinsey that I feel like we shouldn't feel anything is like brick walled before we get to council, because we're our own board and we gotta, whether it be this particular project or whatever project, we got to make sure if we're all in support, we're going to go fight for what we're fighting for, and then they can make their decision based off of that.
Can I just chime in here, Jason, about Marcus? I'm glad you brought up Hiawatha, because I think if Hiawatha came to fruition per its original concept, then I would think that this would be sort of a redundant ask or maybe an obsolete ask. But given the floodplain issues that that came out and the nature of what that's going to be relative to what it was originally conceived as, I think that makes this concept a lot more marketable, so to speak, or need worthy. But I think it's important for us to remember that Hiawatha, which is one of our tier one facilities, did not pan out the way everyone had initially hoped in terms of its, ability to serve as that center because of the floodplain issues. So I think, one of our big five kind of ties back into this concept and that it's not going to be able to serve its original purpose. So I think it's maybe important for us to kind of mentally tie the two together when we're thinking about this opportunity.
Lisette, you have not weighed in yet on this one, and I would, because Mark Lee would be recused from voting, you would be voting on this and whatever we would decide on. So I would really like to hear what you're thinking.
I would agree with the sentiment and the points that everybody has brought up. I think it serves our community well. It meets a need. It is a central location. There's so many positives that I feel I would definitely support this. Maybe our board has some kind of impact on council. Who knows? Does it sway that one person?
It would need to be a 4-2 vote. I'm
Right.
just being realistic because they don't have alternates like we do.
Right.
I'm coming to a thought here. Oh, Gerald just texted me saying something like he's in Los Angeles and I lost it. But hang on while I've got this thought. Uh, I think the way forward here, and to try it also to salvage as much as possible for this meeting, is that there's definitely a consensus to take this to council with some kind of a recommendation for funding. I think we need to decide if we're going to be in the $10,000 to $12,000 range or 20,000. And it but but just for the moment, only because that drives our other conversations about how to fund other grant requests and trying to get as many of those honed down as possible. So if the group is interested, I would propose that we uh, try to decide on a dollar amount that if we had to vote right now, that we would push forward for uh, St. Andrews.
Could I
And
make a motion, Ralph?
well, hang on,
Oh,
and
okay.
then I will. uh, and but give us another week then, since we've got a meeting scheduled for next week, and we could also encourage council members to watch the video of this meeting and uh, and try to get some guidance off of that, or at least have a clearer picture and have Judith back next week's meeting, and then we could go from there. But for the moment, this is more about setting funds aside as we try to get down to 162,000 and change for tier two grants. You see what I'm saying? If that's amenable to everybody, then I would be up for a motion and we can work through this and come up with a dollar amount that we would try to, for the moment, set aside. And then next week we would come to we would come to an official final decision on how to pursue that. Knowing too that, in the meantime, maybe we could see whether the organizers have any interest in Jason's idea of pursuing an option.
I was going to move that in the same way that we have working numbers in our spreadsheet where we know if we get to the end of the list, we might go and tweak some things. Um, but my proposal was to fully fund it and highlight it so that it could be one that we know we go back to if we get to the end and we really just can't cut enough money elsewhere. We need to return to it. But I felt like this was a really strong application and opportunity, and I would support full funding. It's not that crazy of a number. We've repeatedly, um, done 15,000, give or take, for Art on the Avenue and the Manitou music. So it's not so far beyond the scope of grants we've seen and funded. So that's my motion.
Is there a second to the motion?
I would second that.
I
Who?
would like to I wouldn't mind discussing that.
Well, let's get a second first.
I did. That was
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, now discussion. Peter?
I would lean that going towards the full funding with the option of going down. Really, kind of my lowest that I would want to spend or be more willing to cut from is probably down to 15. Like I'm very interested in this, so uh, I would be interested in that. Others?
I would be a nay vote on the motion as it stands. And honestly, for fear of failure, um, because of the reasons I've already discussed. But I think maybe it's a little premature as well before we get through the rest of it. But even if we get through everything and there's 20,000 just sitting there, which we know is not going to be the case, I fear it's going to fail as a straight, firm recommendation to council, and I'd rather come up with something a little bit more creative to float upward for kind of a softer landing that shows that we really thought about it and how this might genuinely succeed, and to be sensitive to the concerns that we're already aware of, honestly.
Okay, I don't see this as a binding motion that would be our official recommendation. It's just to guide us uh, as we go through the other grants of how much money we're setting aside at the moment. And then we're trying to
So
buy a
Ralph,
little
let me,
time. Hmm?
in that
Yes.
sentiment, then let me add that I would be in favor of, and maybe this is a friendly amendment, well, but it's not really because the motion was for full funding. But let me just add that if the motion were for, earmark for our time for a deliberative sake, $10,000 with the condition that it be floated as a possible option payment, that's what I'd be in favor of.
I would think that might wind up being what we would decide on next week after we see whether, how, what the reaction is to this.
Well, being
Is
that I
that
won't be around next week, that's my input for the record, I guess.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Oh,
Can I add something kind of in the spirit of what Jason's thinking as well? I think I'm of course recused from voting on this, but I think a good stipulation also might be, and I shared with Ralph earlier that I personally was not involved when the application was created. I wish that it was, rather than asking for rent money, it was asking to underwrite the ability for this community center organization to be able to provide space for match type events. So this funding would essentially allow free use of a space for community events. Maybe that could be like part of the stipulation, if funds are awarded, that maybe a certain number of match events or events that would otherwise qualify under match guidelines be allowed to be hosted there for free or very nominal cost throughout the year. And I think that helps tie it back to like what the real purpose of it is versus, because I definitely understand the concern of taking match grant money and essentially giving it to a church for rent.
You're cutting out.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
I was hearing most of what you were saying, but about 80% of it.
Let's see. Can you hear me now?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it was my headphone thing. Yeah, I was just saying, I think like maybe if we're going to put stipulations on it, one stipulation could be to the organizers, which I guess would include me, would be that the money be used in part to underwrite or offer free, free hosting for events, like rather than charging the same way that if you go to have an event at City Hall, they may charge you for that. So basically, using the match grant funds, not directly for rent, although that's like definitely a valid way to look at it, but offering the match grant funds to underwrite or provide the ability to waive space usage fees for community organizations and match eligible events.
And hard to argue with that, except for the fact that they're so far away from being able to pay the first year's rent at this point, that really what they're trying to do is pull together enough money to get through the first year. That's what it sounds like.
But I would say to get through the first year and not and while also being able to be a community center and not just a paid, rental hall.
Yeah. Back, Kinsey, it was your motion. Do you want to, are you open to any amending your motion based on what Jason was saying?
Not at this time. I do think, I mean, like you said, it sounds like the option addition isn't even something we can really talk about tonight, and we are just talking about how we want to keep moving forward as we're reviewing the rest of the grants. And I stand by saying let's mark it as full funding and highlight it yellow, knowing that it's available to cut against if we need to. And I would agree with, I think it was Peter who said, I hope it doesn't go below. When we do that yellow cutting, if we do, I would want to put a cap on it almost. But that's not part of this motion. But just calling out that I agree. But yes, I still think marking it as full and highlighting yellow is the simple what I'm proposing.
If I could speak to I kind of backpedaled on that quickly. I don't think that was even really a friendly amendment request because it really just changes the whole nature of the thing from full funding for the concept as presented to partial funding for the right to refuse for a year. It's kind of a totally different concept, so understandable.
Okay. Any other discussion on the motion? Because we still have a lot of stuff here that we need to wade through some of it. We're not going to do 3 hours here, trust me, but we'll do as much as we can. But we kind of need to get beyond this for the moment. It looks like we have a temporary solution here. The motion is for 20,000. Any further discussion? And this is to be set aside in our other deliberations of how to reach the bottom line that we're looking for of 162,000 and change. Okay, why don't I do a roll call vote? so that we'll know where we are. Uh, and I will start with Jason Wells.
Okay.
Uh, Lisette Casey.
Yes.
Peter Summers. Are you there, Peter?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes.
Okay. Uh, Marcus Medina.
I'm a nay for full funding.
Okay. Uh, Ren Almitra.
Yes.
Kinsey Watts.
Yes.
And I'm going to be a nay on that, but it passes 4-3. So uh, we go with 20,000, but understanding that we might come back to that, right, Kinsey?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I think that was important to get to to allow us to move on forward and not just be stuck. Because according to my figuring, we still have like 32,000 or so to cut, and we can start now with other grants. So if everybody's fine with that, we'll start and see how far we can go in the next hour. And if you want to take a break at some point, we can do that too. But I would like to start with, we'll work down from the top again uh, with Manitou Music Foundation, which is $16,775. Uh, I will tell you that this application includes a a line item in the budget that hit me wrong, and that was overhead of just expecting things to cost more than what they're figuring, and that wound up being like $1,500, and there were a couple other smaller spots that got my attention enough that I was thinking in terms of cutting 2,000 from this and 14,775 instead, which would be, it's about what we've done with them in the last couple of years of not quite full funding, but close. Anybody else have thoughts? Don't take that as an order by any means. It's just a starting point.
Last year's project completion report said that they spent $14,091. And I had a similar thing of that. I don't know how much MACH should be funding specifically the line item of scholarships for music majors. I don't know if that's necessarily something that we need to be putting towards, and that specific line item was included youth workshops, but 3K. So I'm fine cutting either 2K or bumping that down to the previous total of about 14,000.
Uh,
Let's keep in mind there's $1,000 in there for a music event at St. Andrews. So, where does that land?
well, if they don't have it at St. Andrews, maybe they'll have it somewhere else.
I wonder where if that $1,000 is going to the musicians at the music event or if it's going to the church. But
Correct.
I don't know. I just want to say, like, the Music Foundation is an organization that's been well funded by MACH over the last several years. It brings a lot of value to the community. I think I would like to get close to fully funding it. However, it does. The question that the budget raises for me is it almost looks as if they have it broken down so granularly that the match grant is funding like their PO box, their website, their 501c3 filing. And it raises a question for me, is the match fully funding the entire organization and operation of the Manitou Music Foundation, or are we funding the program, the music programming that they provide to the community? It makes me wonder if they have any other revenue sources.
I can tell you we're members, but it's very modest, and I doubt there's a whole lot of them out there. We, being Armadillo Ranch, pay annual dues, but it's not much, and I doubt there's many of us that are paying into it. But it isn't showing up in the revenue column. So
yeah, okay, that was just a question, really, because I know that we've discussed in the past whether we should be, really fully funding an entire organization or funding almost more like seed money to help them become their own self-funding thing. But that said, I'm super in favor of getting really close to full funding if we can on this one.
Mark, do you have concerns about the budgeting for overhead costs?
Yeah, same as what you said, Ralph. I mean, yeah, in budgeting in general, it's really smart. As part of a grant application, it doesn't make sense for us to give $1,500 that they may or might not need.
Yeah. Okay, the request is for 16,775. It sounds like from where we are here that a compromise kind of middle ground might be 15,000.
can I throw out an alternate figure?
Sure.
Ralph, which is a little bit less, because I know we're in austerity mode here. If you carve out the sound system components and maintenance, which I don't think is appropriate, the stuff that Marcus is talking about, the operational costs, the event gear, again, hardware that we shouldn't be funding, the St. Andrews event, and the overhead, if you carve out all of those, then it gets down to 11,006. So that would be for the summer concert series, the audio technicians, the musical, and Peter, I do kind of, I'm on the other side of that. I actually would support the scholarships and the workshops for the students. So that would include that and the other small events, the Ice Cream Social Friendship Day, to provide musical support for that. If we do those and carve out the things that I carved out, that gets us down to 11.6. That'd be my suggestion, proposal.
I was just going to jump in to say that I'm looking at 3 years in a row, the awarded amount versus requested amount with these, and we've ranged from awarding 73% to 84 to 86%, which would be, and I don't have this exact, but that's going from like just under 16,000, we gave 650, or the first year with the 73% one was they asked for 15,015 and we awarded 11,000. So Jason's proposal would be fairly in line with historically the ratio they've received from us and worked with. So there's a precedent there. I would support.
Anybody else quickly? Because we're kind of all over the place here, so I would kind of like to have clear. We got 11.
I'd make a motion on the terms that I suggested and see if it bites. So again, It was 11,006, but it was 11,006 with it specified for the items. I'll repeat them: the summer concert series, the youth music workshops, the other public events, and I think just those 4 that I named hits 11.6. Maybe someone can correct me on my math if I'm wrong. So I'll move to recommend 11.6 based on those 4 bullet points.
Is there a second?
I'll second that, but I would like there to be a yellow color on it where Potentially,
Oh,
we could
yeah.
go up a little bit later.
Okay. Any further discussion? This would be a cut, as I look at it, as $5,175 from their request. And this is why we were starting at the top, not at the bottom. Okay. Uh, I'll, I'd, let's see if we are unanimous. All in favor? Aye.
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 I
Okay.
Any opposed?
Nay, Peter.
Okay. So that would be 6-1. Okay, we'll go with that. Fair enough. The next one is Flying Pig Summer Arts. The request is 10,850. And I know that last year we were just funding the fellowship position, and now it looks like they've added more sources of revenue, but also more expenses into this. And my my temptation was that we fund probably somewhere in the range of $6,000, but I'm open to, that's just a starting point, like I say. So, but that would be paying for the fellowship position again, which we did last year, and then maybe a little bit more.
And
Anybody else?
I'm recusing myself on this one, just to.
Okay. Uh, Anybody else?
I just want to say Flying Pig Farm keeps on uh, being a great community asset. And every time I go by there, they're adding things and doing more things and bringing all the school kids there. And I almost feel like they could be in the running for being a tier one of the small tier ones someday. But I would like to see more than that. I would be trying to push for more, closer to 80%.
I can tell you that we had never had a request like this from them until last year. And then it was like this new position, this summer fellowship position. And they asked us to fund it, and we did. Uh, and I'm pretty sure it was close to a full funding grant, but it was in that range of a little less, I think, than 6,000. Kinsey could check me on that one, but I that was what was driving me, is that this just seemed like one of those where they haven't really changed that much from last year. It doesn't look like, and so I thought maybe funding them at the level that we funded them last year might be sufficient.
I was gonna put forth Peter here. I was gonna put forth 9,000 or 8.5 in the effort of continuing to cut.
I just jumping in, Kinsey here. I would be a lot more comfortable with 9,000 than the previous five. It does get us closer to 82%, 83%-ish. And I just want to concur with Marcus of loving what this group is doing. I've had the opportunity to have my ear talked off by a kid who was an attendee who just had so much mushroom information to pass on and was like writing plays about it, and it's just really cool to see. And so I am in support of giving them whatever we can.
does anyone know offhand, Jason here, whether their alternate funding sources have increased over the years we've been doing? Because it's got a lot of other stuff coming in. I know we've had some philosophical discussions about whether we rank that or not. I always like to see alternate funding sources myself, and they've got a lot of other streams, and I don't know if that's been increasing through the years. Does anyone know offhand? Because I just like seeing that, and I don't know if it's been increasing. I think it's something that's noteworthy, and I don't know offhand. I mean, they've got a substantial 14,000 coming in from the farm and art camp tuition, and I guess that's
Right, that was a major source.
yeah. So it's just I like seeing that. I just don't know where that is relative to years past, but for me, it was worth noting.
Well, it sounds like somewhere in the range of 8,500 to 9,000 is sort of a middle ground from what our conversation is here. Uh,
I'll move to fund at 9,000 for 2026.
I'll second that.
okay. Any further discussion? All in favor of 9,000, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Poetry and pottery. Uh, Anybody want to weigh in? I don't want to lead off the discussion on all these. The request is for 8,500. I think this one has been in the range of, I'm not speaking to the application, but I think this one has been in the range of a 75 to 80% funded grant in the past. Does
You say that
anybody?
it was fun looking through the completion report because it seemed like that place was pretty packed and there was a lot of people uh, getting involved there. So I think they were doing a good job.
In 2005, attendance skyrocketed to 647 people, up from 490 the previous year. That was the one thing I highlighted. It's great to see that it's on like not just a modest but substantial upward trajectory for a year after year program that we fund. So definitely very supportive, but I know we got to cut.
Anybody have a specific thought?
Um,
We did
I guess yeah, I mean, they're not asking for much than last year, right?
What did you say, Mark? What were you going to say?
I was just going to say that we did 75% last year in 2025.
Yeah, I'd be in favor of the same.
A fourth of that would be 21. That would be like, if we did round number,
6375
yeah.
because their request is identical to last year.
Okay.
So it would be 6375. We would fund them at exactly the same dollar amount if we did 75% again.
I would
Is it-
support
And
that.
their attendance improved vastly with what we gave them last year. So there's that.
How does their budget look? I can't remember. Seems like that's been a concern.
There's a lot of in kind in there. There's 700 in kind for labor. There's I'm not sure how they're getting the permits and rent and insurance in kind, but they've got that in their budget is $2,700, $2,750. I don't know how you get the permits and the rent and the insurance in kind, but total budget's 14,000. So with that 75%, we'd be underwriting about half.
I'm down for a vote on 6375.
Okay, we've got motion on the floor, and I'm not hearing much opposition to that. So let's vote on 6375. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that's 2125 cut. Okay. Next one is the Wildlife Ascending Mural at the on the high school hill. The proposal is for $8,435. I hope that you all looked at the materials that the applicant had submitted as attachments that didn't say, because they were, I thought, pretty dang impressive. Uh, and her budget was very thorough. And then I go back to a comment made last week that if we take too much out of a proposal like this, it's just coming out of the artist's pocket. Seemed like it was a pretty reasonable set of numbers.
I also thought it was a pretty reasonable set of numbers, and their total expenses versus total revenue uh, is a 7 cent difference, and they did chronicle it out incredibly well. So I'm here for, if not 7,000 plus, the full funding.
I would also support full funding for this one.
I also I do want to ask. I don't see it in the application. It may be there, but like site approval has been handled, or
It has been.
okay.
This is one that was uncertain in that the city was waiting to, both sides were waiting on the other, but I think the Creative Alliance got involved at some level too, and that there are no problems with permissions at this point.
Excellent. Thank you.
Just a technical thing on the revenue column. It says, please see attached, and this might be a technical thing with attachment issues. It says, please see attached budget spreadsheet for an itemization of in-kind donations. And I don't know if that spreadsheet made its way to us. I would have been curious to see that, but
I sent you the whole packet.
oh, is that an email? Okay.
It's like 5
All
attachments.
right. Okay. So that did come through, and I'm sorry, I didn't get a chance to catch up to that, but the dollar amount on that, do you remember offhand?
I do not, but I remember that there were in-kind things like equipment being shared with her and something else, but
It was substantial though. Noteworthy at least.
No, it wasn't. I don't remember that being that huge. I could be wrong, and I don't have it on my screen. It didn't set off any alarm.
Okay.
This is a 300-foot mural that going up the side of the hill there on the retaining wall.
I would make a motion for full funding. This is Ren.
Okay.
Second, Jason.
Huh?
Second, Jason.
Okay, thanks. Any further discussion? All in favor of full funding, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Good. I'm glad that we're showing flexibility here, and if one really stands out, then maybe we do fully fund. Community music series. The request is 7380. This applicant has the last 2 years had done piano concerts and that we partially funded, and now is kind of broadening her scope. But I'm thinking that the we would, it might make sense to be in a similar mode of viewing this, of funding some of it, but not all of it. Does anybody have a thought? I was thinking somewhere in the range of between 5 and 6,000 was what I was thinking about, but I'm open to suggestion.
I would be interested in 6,000 with a yellow highlight.
Anybody else have a thought? All in favor of 6,000 for community music series, say aye.
I,
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Manitou Springs Pride Fest, $6,500. We've got some board members who weren't around for our issues in the past where we had to have an executive session uh, related to the lack of a completion report from 2 years ago, and we know that while I don't know that anybody put money in their pocket, but they did not spend the money the way it that it was we were told to expect. Musicians were not paid. There were other issues too. So, uh,
I I will interrupt you really quickly. That was a different person. This is under new leadership, and the event last year I particularly enjoyed.
yes, I mean, Katie Orr, who is the applicant now, was part of it. She was one of the leaders before. I'm not blaming her at all, but it's not. I mean, there are some of the same people. It was the one person who was the applicant who is no longer a resident. Well,
And that's partially where I'm coming from of I lean that it was mostly that person, and that's why we had such a problem with it. But now it's a different organizational structure.
okay.
second that.
I, I'm I will say this. This application is for 6,500, and that was the amount that we funded fully for the request for Carnival was 6,000. I'm not sure that Pride Fest would rate more match funding than Pride Fest. Maybe it's somewhere in the vicinity, but I can tell you that I marked down 5,000 for this.
And
But
that is what we
I'd
did
support
last
that.
year.
I'm sorry, what? Was
I
that
said that is what we awarded them last year as well. And I think Jason said that he'd
I'd,
support that.
I'd support 5,000. And I'll also point out that the expenses somehow are actually less than the revenue in their budget, but by 1,120, 11 exactly $1,120. They've got more revenue than they do expenses. So, but if we go 5,000, that's a moot point.
I would make a motion to do then 5,500 with a yellow highlight.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second that.
The amount on the floor is 5,500. That would be a reduction of 1,000. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I,
Any opposed? None. Good. Okay. Kinsey, can you tell us how we stand right now on how much has been cut tonight, or do you want me to add it up?
I see we have a remaining budget of 39,699, and I messed up along the way what I had set up showing the remaining requested. So I'm trying to get that back with a formula that only counts for ones we haven't added a proposed amount for, but
Because I had us for 32 yet to go when we started this. Uh, but anyway, well, let's keep going here. Uh, don't want to lose time. Moonlight Market is a $6,000 request. We all know what Moonlight Market is, and uh, I know that I'm going to speak on behalf of Neil Minch here because he has had concerns about the fact that discounts or waiving of fees for vendors is part of this request or has been, and that he thinks that it should not be fully funded. He also thinks that it would be, uh, it's one of those that maybe just doesn't need to be paying uh, people as much as maybe using volunteers more. I'm open to discussion if you want a starting point, but not. I'm not making motions here, but my starting point would be 5,000 for the funding instead of 6. But I'm open to anything. Everybody?
Say, Ralph, just similar to the last one, we've got a good unbalanced, but this one's more vastly unbalanced budget. They've got their expenses listed at 8,000 and their revenues at 17,700. And that was just someone not really comprehending how to balance the budget out properly. But I just wanted to point that out before we delve into the merits.
This application has not had the strongest budget in past years, and we've kind of looked the other way. It seems like, but I mean, it's obviously tied to First Fridays, well attended, and uh, we want it to succeed, obviously. Um, um, Anybody else have a thought?
I think all these markets that we got going in Manitou are helping our community have a location where you can go buy something locally instead of having to go outside of Manitou to go buy whatever you're trying to buy. So, this is another good place for that to occur.
If we didn't fully fund, I think we could say we could use the budget as a reason because there's definitely, you know, cause for questions about the budget.
Yeah, it's sort of hard to make heads or tails of what they're communicating via the budget, which makes it really hard to fund the full amount because it makes the full amount feel somewhat arbitrary
Yeah,
without the budget numbers to back it up. And so, yeah, but at the same time, like what Marcus said, what everyone has said, it's really valuable in that it provides a venue for small artisans to be able to show their wares and show their work. So I would be in favor of partial.
And it would appear that the vast majority of the discrepancy is that 11,000 in artist sales that doesn't go to the event itself or listed in the revenue, and maybe they just put that in there to demonstrate, what this is bringing to the artist community. But it had probably more place in the narrative than in the revenue column.
To throw a number out there, 75%, 4.5 thousand. Thoughts, feelings, etc.
4,500.
Or 6,000, 5,000.
I was fine with 5,000, but for some of the positive reasons that have been said of but maybe that sends a little signal of they need to get a little bit better handle of, by not getting fully funded.
And Peter, you're taking notes as well for partially funded projects or
Yes.
not recommended project. You're taking notes on this. Yeah, I think there definitely needs to be some feedback on the budget.
Mm-hmm.
I could support 5,000 with a highlight on it because
Okay.
I could see
All
us
in favor of
maybe turning back
5,000
this
for
one right now.
all in favor of 5,000 for Moonlight Market, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, good. Soul Songs and Healing Sound, $5,505. Uh, this is Judy Piazza's event, isn't it? There's one of these, and I can't remember. This might have been the one that had maybe some attendance issues. It was not all that. I could be wrong.
She has a Green Mountain Falls address. I don't know if that's relevant.
She's got to pass through.
Oh, pass through. There it is.
Yeah. And the event is in Manitou.
We have funded this one 3 previous years in a row, like since the website's been around, and ranging from about $1,300 to just over 3,000 has been our usual.
And she has accepted that and said that she could do the event with whatever we gave her. So, uh, okay, I'll just toss out 3,500 for this time, and see how that lands or if anybody else has a thought.
I was gonna propose lower. We've kind of got and I don't have specific budget numbers to back this, but going off of percentages, we for 2 of her previous grants gave 50%. And so I was thinking closer to 2,500 as a partial.
Okay, that's less than 50%.
I'd still be in favor of that suggestion, given that we've been down to 1,300 on this same program.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I would be interested in $2,750, $2.50 at an even 50%. But 2,800 or 2,700 works.
I kind of like the idea of an established event getting at least 50%. So why don't we see if 2,800 will fly? That's just a little bit over 50%. All in favor of 2,800, say aye.
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 Any opposed? That's 2,705 of a cut. Okay. Next, Pikes Peak Poetry Summit, $5,500. I think this is another event that has been going for a while and is pretty well attended. Anybody have any thoughts on this?
This was another one that has stood out during the completion reports as well attended and a great completion report. So I wanted to give him a shout out for that.
Can we check what was funded last year? I don't have that in front of me.
Yes, 1 second. I got pulled into something else. I'm distracted. But if anyone else has it ready to go, that's cool too.
Pikes Peak Poetry Summit seems like it was mostly funded, but not all, but I can't remember.
We did have a discussion last year about $1,500 for catered breakfast and lunch.
Ah,
You know, human beings do need to eat, but at the same time, it came up for discussion last year as to
We
whether we
did
should.
we did 3,500 on a $5,500 ask, 64%.
Thank you.
good to know. I had tentatively written down 4,000, but if that would bring it down to 3,500 if the group wants to stay with last year's award. Does anybody have any thoughts other than 3,500? Okay, all in favor? Aye. 35.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
Any opposed? No.
Can we circle back of what the feedback on that one was for partial?
The catered meals being a major expense. I think that would suffice because that was a big item on the budget.
Thank you.
Okay. We're doing pretty good here. Gift bags for the homeless. Big discussion last year, and we only funded it at, what was it, 1,000? On a $5,000 request. They're requesting 5,000 again. And they have proven themselves to be pretty popular. And we did fund it at some level last year. Does anybody have thoughts on this?
Hey, Ralph, do I recall correctly, and Jason here, did this one not get some direct council feedback at the time of presentation?
There
I think
was,
and I know obviously we've got new members of council who might have different thoughts, but I feel like this did get some level of direct discussion, and trying to recall what that was. Like if
I do remember some discussion, but I can't remember. It didn't rise to the level of questioning our recommendation, which was low. And we said it was because it was a first time request and we hadn't been sure, but we wanted to to know what council thought about whether it fell into the match realm, and they approved it.
Did,
That's
and we had gotten advisement from Judith that she didn't think they would. I just want to put that out there. I still really like this project, so I'm in favor of even more than what we did last year, personally.
and I know that Judith has said that she wound up volunteering for it, and she really thinks it was a, a great thing.
I do. Yeah, I remember this one being one where we sort of tried to navigate a little bit of anticipatory compliance with what we thought the council was going to do, kind of like what we're trying to navigate this year with the community center, and we did get it through. I mean, the people on this board stood strong and said, you know, that they wanted to fund it regardless, and we did it, and council accepted that. So
it was only $1,000 last year, and the same request. So we only did 20% last year.
Anybody have thoughts?
I would move to do at least 2.5, 50%.
I'd be fine with more than that, actually.
I think our hesitation was whether it fit in a bucket, and there was a determination at that level that it did. So yeah, I mean, I feel like given its success and the fact that again, we've got 3 new council members who might have different, philosophical feelings about it, but it was a success, and it was determined last year that it was a fit, and I think I'd be in favor of more.
how does 3,500 sound to the group? Isn't that like 70% maybe?
Mm-hmm. That's 70. I like that.
I would make a motion to fund it at 3,500, 70%.
Okay. I think I heard a second in there. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any
Aye.
good. That that's good. Artful Fridays. This is a first time request, if I remember correctly. I don't remember her applying before. Uh, and I don't want to speak negatively of it because of that. I mean that in a positive way, actually, because it's nice seeing new ideas. Does anybody have thoughts on this one? I was thinking in terms of 4,000, which would be 80%, and maybe make it yellow. How does that sound to the group?
I was leaning 3,000, but yellow works.
Okay, all in favor of 4,000 for now anyway for Artful Friday, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay. Keep going here for a little longer. We have the Manitou Comedy Festival, which Nina Davis event. She's pushed through, keeps going with this. She's requesting 5,000. I know it's been a partial fund the last 2 years. 2 years ago, it was because Lulu's had gone away and she was kind of scrambling for venues and stuff, but it sounds like she's in a little better place now. But there's nothing like this event in Manitou. It's one of those that it's kind of nice that we've got our own comedy festival.
And
Anybody?
I'll be Jason here. I'll be recusing from this. Subsequent to my maybe, I have spoken with Nina, and she will be approaching Armadillo Ranch as a possible venue. So I'm recused on this one.
Okay, but if you know something, you can definitely contribute to the discussion, Jason.
I know that much because I reached out and I said, "Are you going to be, are you going to be potentially talking to us about doing this here?" She said, "Yeah, I plan to." So that's all I know.
Okay.
That, and I think it's really cool.
She had a balanced budget. Total revenue, total expenses were 12,000, and we are just 5,000 of those. So she's raising more than half elsewhere.
Good point. Uh, I was actually saying 4,500, which is cutting just 10%. How does that sound? Again, for somebody who's persevered and has got a unique event.
I like that.
I would support that.
Okay, all in favor of 4,500 for Manitou Comedy Festival, say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Recuse.
Recuse. Okay. Uh, Children of Gaia. Uh, Definitely falls under the cultural side. 5,000. I'm trying to remember what we gave this one last year. Seems like we've given them close to full funding on this.
It was full funding last year. 5,000. Is it 5,000 this year? I'm looking at last year now, but the request was 5,000 and we recommended full funding.
Oh, I'm talking on mute. I was just going to throw in also, we did the same for 2024. So 2 years in a row, we've done full funding for this one, and they've kept the consistent what they've requested.
I like that. Uh,
I believe they had a great completion report on this one too.
I
okay.
would support full funding again.
Seconded, Peter.
Okay, all in favor of full funding of 5,000, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. World Dance Festival, $4,500. This probably gives us more great photography than a lot of other events. uh, and it's pretty well attended. I mean, I wouldn't say it's not like 500 or anything, but there always seems to be a pretty good crowd for it.
This was not identified as a previously funded project.
Are you
A
sure?
heads up to you, Kenzie.
It's
Not
the
on the little.
manual toggle that they switched, so I assume they just didn't notice, or they didn't.
Oh, it's up to the applicant to select that.
Yeah.
I got it. Okay. I saw a few of those. I was wondering about it. So I didn't realize that was an applicant selection. Got it.
Was this fully funded last year? Do you have that in front of you?
Yes, it looks like it was fully funded last year and the year before that.
Score
And we did
4,500.
hmm the same amount. And this will be the fourth, since the website has been in existence, it's possible that they had applications before we switched to this system as well.
Where does this event happen at?
I think it happens at the MAC.
I thought this was a smoke brush event.
Maybe it is. Maybe it is.
Okay. Okay. I was
Yeah,
just curious because it
that's
has
odd.
$500 for venue rental. So
The World Dance Festival. Sorry, is that the one we're on?
yeah.
Mhm.
I feel like the first year it happened at City Hall even. I don't think it's Smoke
Right.
Brush, but I should
Oh,
look at the application again.
Hmm. I don't
I
think
don't
the
remember them
city should
specifying.
charge for match for hosting match events, but
Yeah.
that's side conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting point.
Anybody do we want
Let's fund it. The whole darn thing.
all in favor of 4,500, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Blue Hands Art Festivals, also $4,500. Anybody, if anybody's seen this, the people who participate really get into this. Uh, Not huge numbers, but decent numbers. I seem to recall probably around 75 people involved. Uh, and there was more than one event, but 75 or so at the one event that I saw. Uh, 4,500. I think this one has not been fully funded, as I recall.
last year they asked for 4,500 and we gave them 4,500. The year before that it was 4,000 fully funded. And the year before that we granted 91%. They had asked for 5,500 and we gave 5,000. So we have been
Yeah. In their app, they say this is the 6th year requesting funds.
Which means since the start of match.
Mhm.
Anybody have a specific number you want to toss out then?
I say full funding.
I
Full
would,
fund with
funding.
yellow. Yeah.
All in favor of full funding, say aye.
I,
Any,
Aye.
Aye.
we're good. Okay, we've only got a handful more to go through here, so let's do it. Women's Sacred Circle. This is $3,010. And I have to admit to a little brain fog. It's been a long time since I looked at that application and I'm having trouble remembering much about it.
I would just throw out that this one got some of our lowest averages in the list remaining with ranging
That's
even below 4 to 7 as the average scores. So
what was the total average for the group? Was it
it's 5.78.
okay? Uh, as a starting point, I put like 2,300, which was more in the 75% range.
This is the
For
first
me,
time
I'll just say,
go ahead.
I was just going to say my low score on this one was impact because it's not totally clear in the narrative, but the meal allowance is just 12 participants, $30 per person, but for 12 people. So it just seems like the impact for me is going to be not very sweeping.
Maybe not 2,300 then.
I did score it high with alignment with community values, though.
Mm-hmm.
But I also did have it a little low on impact, but high on alignment with community and values.
Likewise, yeah.
Yeah. It feels like a semi-private. It's not private, right? They're not saying it's not open to the public, but I don't know. It does seem like a smaller impact, limited audience, and maybe I don't know.
$1,505 would be 50%.
I would support throwing out not funding to see if we can kind of catch up some of what we're trying to edge in here. And I do agree with a lot of the comments that were just shared about perhaps small impact and maybe feeling kind of more like a private event for this kind of price tag. I mean, this is closer to what we're throwing parades for. Um, so I'd be curious to hear what everyone else feels of that.
I guess I was being a little lenient thinking that it was a first time event, but if we don't see the potential there as well as being low participation, then I understand the thought about zero.
I'm more
I
with
think
Ralph.
due
I
to
think
its
at being a first time event, I don't know. I just see value in like giving them an opportunity to sort of, prove it. Or I don't mean that in the way that it sounds. I mean to just sort of like get partially funded and kind of, hopefully it goes well and maybe it grows.
I mean, I'd throw out 1,500 for a nearly 50% fund with a yellow highlight, either up or down.
That
I'd be
sounds
up
like
for
a
that.
motion to me.
I support it.
All in favor of
Second.
15, all in favor of 1,500 for Women's Sacred Circle. Say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed?
I'm opposed, Ren.
Okay. That would be 6-1. Uh, Clayfest, Mark Wong, 3,000. This is a pretty common request for him, and he has not gotten fully funding, usually because of budget being kind of uh, not, I, not terrible, but shaky. just not good detail. Um, but I think we've funded it close. I think we've given it like
For all the
maybe,
years it's consistent, Ralph. He asks for 4 and we give him 3, and this year asked for 3.
oh,
On the basis of that alone, I would propose full funding.
Second.
it's a good event.
Yeah.
All in favor of 3,000 for Clayfest, say
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Epic Concerts in Manitou, 2,800. Uh, these are not hugely attended events, but by all accounts, they are outstanding musicians that they bring in for these concerts. And it's one of those lower key events that, or not one, several, that are, I would say, kind of unique to Manitou. 2,800 is the request.
It is a November concert, so it does split some of the off season.
Yeah. Uh, seems like we've been close to full funding on this in the past. Uh, I would be fine with full funding. I've heard enough good things about the actual concerts, even though, granted, they do not have large crowds.
Yeah, it looks like the first year they requested higher, like 4,000. Smaller amount was funded, and then since then we've sort of aligned on how much they request, and they've been full funded ever since.
Yeah, that's right.
I'll move to fully fund it unless there's more discussion to be had.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Jason. All in favor of full funding for Epic Concerts, say aye.
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 Any
Aye.
opposed? Good. Art and meditation, 2,250. This is Stephanie from the MAC, her proposal. Uh, again, another one of those interesting, different events that not a huge crowd, but it's I think it's
Right.
from what I've heard is really a good event.
Ralph, could you repeat? I didn't hear the grant I had some noise in the background.
Okay, art and meditation. Stephanie Butts is the applicant. She's on the staff at the MAC.
It looks like we've consistently fully funded this project as well.
A nice, modest event and a proposal, and it's kind of hard to rip on it.
I like that
Yeah,
it goes
great.
year round as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Great experience.
Okay, all in favor of full funding for art and meditation, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Two more. Altitude Makers Markets, $1,960. These markets have done, according to the project completion report, did pretty well.
I think they did extremely well. I think last year it was a mini grant, and
Yeah.
then it went on last summer or last year for 5 or 6 months. I don't know. It was a lot of them, and every one of them was that I made it to. which
It
was
was
about
a mini
3 of
grant.
them.
I'm
Go
still
ahead.
on last year's tab by mistake, and it was 720 last year as a mini grant.
Hmm. Yeah, I think they were just getting started last year.
Yeah, I thought each event could have been worth a mini grant, and there was about 6 of them. So
Uh, how about all in favor of full funding 1960? Say aye. Aye.
I
Bye.
Any, any opposed? I like that event. That's good. One more, mindfulness and fiber art. It's a $1,000 request. Uh, as I recall, there was not a location on this, but probably just needs to book a room at the MAC or something, or that classroom.
Just to double check, Ralph, that this got a pass through,
Okay.
because this is just into OCC.
It's identified as a path through on the application.
Yeah, and I followed up with all of the pass-through applicants because again, those letters were uploaded and didn't save, but I've gotten all of the pass-through applicants I followed up with, and all of them have turned in their letters, so there's no issue with that anymore. So that's not a problem. Kind of hard to nitpick on $1,000 request.
And I know it's a much bigger deal with a permanent mural on a wall, but I really do. I'll keep returning to the fact that I think that we need to chisel in on the established location thing. And maybe it's just a toggle switch. Have you obtained permission to do the project or performance or whatever that intended by this application? But it just rears its head so often.
It says here timeline for spending these funds. I would like to do a series of 8 classes every other week, beginning August to November. I wouldn't mind 6 classes and just make it a mini grant of $750. Thoughts? As you can see there, we have to cut more. But what's 250 versus what's 500 versus 1,000?
I would be fine with 750 if I mean that does take it out of being a regular grant and make it a mini grant, and it doesn't then require
And
quite as much accountability. What were you saying something?
yeah, sorry. The details on the budget and well, not the budget necessarily, but the details tab just was written like a mini grant, and yeah.
That's fair.
I support this
For 750 or for more?
for 750.
Okay.
This proposal.
Let's try to vote on that then. All in favor of 750 for mindfulness and fiber arts, say aye.
I
Any opposed?
I think,
Yeah.
and Peter, I think, yeah, the feedback that it's been bumped to a mini grant status and that it was kind of presented as such might be useful to the applicant.
Yeah. Good point. Okay. I feel like we're going to we've gone through all these. It's a little bit after 7. I I feel like what we need to do is come back quickly and check these numbers and make sure, because I had less Uh, so I don't know. I we can come back next week, but let's try to get uh, certainty on these numbers by hopefully by the end of tomorrow, and I can get them sent out to the group, and that'll give us a clearer picture on what we need to do coming back next week.
Ralph,
And
is this number look correct to you?
that number is correct.
Okay. These are all equations that are built in that are tallying up based off of that. So I would hope that it's correct, but yeah, we should definitely double check.
Okay, so that's saying that we would still, if we fully fund on the St. Andrews, that we still need to cut nearly 10,000 more.
Hmm.
Okay. I'll I was kind of working it a different way in that I think I had us for having funded 106,000 as of last week. Uh, and so I don't know. I'll do some calculations as well and get back with you. But I really it looks like we did make a good bit of progress tonight, and I think we're going to have to follow up and see where we stand uh, as far as what the options are, and we'll hit the ground with St. Andrews next week of hopefully having a little clearer picture. And Mark, I'll want to follow up with you related to that too.
And since I won't be around next week, sorry folks, but I'd be remiss if I didn't point out if there's any traction on my notion of an option for 10,000 on St. Andrews, make your work a lot quicker next week.
Okay.
So
I'm
that'll knock
gonna,
off.
yeah.
That'll get you about net neutral if
Well, the
there's
first thing I'm going to do
any
is
buy-in to that.
first thing I'm going to do is send a message to Nancy and Susan Watkins saying you need to listen to the recording of this meeting or watch it and see what you say. We'll see how they respond to that, and they'll will and then I'll follow up and see. But this,
And assuming they make it this far, which they probably wouldn't, I wouldn't. That whole concept just kind of takes the desperation out of the whole thing while providing the security at the same time. And I think it was Rand who was talking about the queasiness with funding operational costs versus sort of startup things. I mean, an option could be viewed as sort of a startup cost and a preservation of opportunity cost, where rent is really kind of an operational thing. So I don't know. I guess I'm holding out some hope that can be seen as a happy medium in a way to remove any anxiety with the whole opportunity.
well, we'll see if how Nancy and Susan feel and if they want to push it forward. Mark?
I just want to ask Jason, could you, I'm like only very slightly embarrassed to ask this, but could you like give like a very brief, like for a person that doesn't understand such things, what do you mean by an option like like how would you explain it to like a fifth grader?
As layman as possible, they they won't rent it to anyone else for a year, and they get a financial benefit to that. So say the church is sitting on it vacant for a year, they get nothing. In this case, they get $10,000 to invest, hopefully, in the facility, and I think that would have to be a condition. And the organizers have a year to fundraise, to organize, to put together a more coherent business plan. The city can rest assured that it's there as an opportunity the next cycle that comes around. So they get 10,000 in their pocket right away. The church does, and the community doesn't need to go on worrying if it's going to fall into other hands. So it's a first right of refusal, if you will.
Got it.
then it's a
That makes
vested, it's a
sense.
vested, it's a vested property interest. I mean, there's, documents are signed and they can't, lease to anyone else for that 1 year period.
Okay. Thank you.
And again, I'll go back to the fact that there's a lot of vacant properties in this town, and it seems like more and more of them are popping up as the bottom falls out in our state and maybe beyond. So I feel like it'd be a win-win thing if it's amenable to you all. I guess I'll include you in that group and St. Mark's
So
potentially,
when are you leaving town, Jason?
and to city council maybe most importantly, because they're not
No.
committing to. I'm leaving to Monday.
Oh, okay. I was
And I
just
won't be back till
wondering,
the following.
you want me to text you with any developments or possible bounce?
I'm going international. I don't know if you text me, it might cost me a couple dollars. I don't know. I need to call T-Mobile and get that figured out. Actually, I'm going to Dominican Republic, so I gotta.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I
let's
gotta,
hold it out as a possibility, depending if something comes up because it's your idea. Uh, so I might try to just send a text or an email out there and see, maybe there's
yeah, I'll be around till Monday. I'll be
okay.
around through the weekend. So, yep.
All right. Uh, okay. We'll just kind of be a work in progress here. And we'll see what we have left and see what we hear back. But I'm going to suggest that the organizers for the St. Andrews grant watch this, and I'm going to suggest that hopefully some city council members will watch it too and see how strong the sentiment is, and we'll go from there. But I know there's no council meeting scheduled again until I want to say the 3rd. I think there's a regular council meeting on the 3rd. So uh, this it'll be interesting. We'll see what we can do. But at that point, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So
So
move.
moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're
Aye.
adjourned.
Aye.
Thanks everyone. We got a lot done.
Yeah.
Hey,
Night.
thanks, Danielle.
You're very welcome, guys.